Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the March edition of the CUNY BMI Dialogues. Happy Women's History Month. This month's dialogue is exactly that, a celebration of the women who have helped and supported the BMI project, not just this year, not through the pandemic, but through our history of 17 years coming around already as we prepare ourselves for this new journey, the 17th year, this full 17 rotations around the sun. We want to make sure that the women who support the program let us know their experience, their insight, their knowledge as to their role into the BMI projects. So I am going to sit back and enjoy a phenomenal conversation with four women. We have the project director for the CUNY Law School Pipeline to Justice program at the CUNY Law School. We have the Vice Chancellor of Student Affairs and Enrollment Management. We have the program manager for the John Jay Urban Male Initiative. And we have our very, very dear supporter, consultant. How many more hats, how many more titles can we give? Dr. Marcia Cantarella, who's also here. And we thank you all for being here. Take it away, Dania.
Thank you so much, Jorge. It is a pleasure to join in this dialogue with these amazing supporters of CUNY and CUNY BMI. I'll just say, again, my name is Dania Levister. I'm the Associate Dean for Enrollment Management and Access Initiatives, as well as the Executive Director of the Pipeline to Justice program at CUNY Law School. And it is my honor and privilege to be here, to be doing this amazing work at CUNY and to facilitate this dialogue today. Our topic today is Women of BMI, Standing Strong with Our Brothers. The CUNY Black Male Initiative was established 16 years ago with the support from the New York City Council and then Chancellor Matthew Goldstein. Since its inception, the CUNY Black Male Initiative has worked to create systems of support to improve academic and career outcomes for Black men and Latino men. Through our 6 pillars, academic enhancement, culturally competent peer-to-peer mentoring, socio-emotional programming, diversity recruitment, institutional commitment, and our advisory committees, the 33 funded projects work to give wraparound services to create places of belonging and cultivate success in our students. The CUNY BMI projects support pre-college students, formerly and presently incarcerated students looking to complete their high school equivalency, as well as undergraduate, graduate students at all CUNY campuses, including the CUNY School of Law, Sophie Davis Biomedical Education Program, AKA the medical school, and the newly added projects at the CUNY Professional School Studies and the School of Urban and Labor Studies as well. So it is my privilege to start us off by introducing our 3 panelists today. And I'm going to start by reading their bios and then give each of them an opportunity to say anything else that they'd like to add about their work and relationship to CUNY before we launch into some specific questions so that we can hear the wisdom and expertise about what is happening within the CUNY programs and the university. I'd like to start with Maria Vidal. For over a decade, Maria E. Vidal has served as the manager of the Urban Male Initiative at the John Jay College of Criminal Justice, a CUNY Black Male Initiative funded project. In this role, she has fostered a supportive community of excellence for Black and Latinx students through various methods, including multi-level, culturally competent mentoring programs. She created student academic success programs that meet the students where they are, with the goal of connecting Black and Latinx men to their passion through education, and oversaw the remodeling and expansion of the UMI Student Lounge and UMI Learning Labs. She has also fostered successful partnerships throughout the college, which led to securing continuous funding from the college's student activity fee, which funds several student opportunities, which includes but are not limited to program activities for the mentoring program and the opportunities for students to attend conferences around the nation. Maria is passionate about mentorship, educational justice, and retention strategies for Black and Latinx men. Maria proudly graduated from the John Jay College of Criminal Justice with a Master's of Public Administration with a concentration in Management and Operations, and a Bachelor of Arts in Criminal Justice with a concentration in Crime and Society, as well as a minor in Counseling. So I'd like to welcome Maria and offer you an opportunity to add anything else to that outstanding resume for the work that you've been doing at John Jay.
Thank you so much. And it's my pleasure to be here with all of you today. And I am so incredibly thankful for everything CUNY has done for me and continues to do for our students. Thank you so much. And I really look forward to this conversation.
Thank you so much, Maria. Thank you. Next, I would like to introduce Dr. Marcia Cantarella. Marcia Young Cantarella has been an associate dean at Hunter College, a dean at Princeton University, and part of the dean staff at New York University's College of Arts and Sciences. In these functions, she has been responsible for academic advisement, career development, preparation for postgraduate fellowships, development of diversity programs, and strategies to generally enhance students' academic experiences and outcomes. She has drawn on 15 years of corporate experience gained as a director in public affairs and then in marketing at Avon Products to apply those skills and background to communications challenges, financial and strategic planning in higher education environments. As Vice President of Student Affairs at the Metropolitan College of New York, she was responsible for web development and rebranding of the college, as well as admissions and student services. She is the author of I Can Finish College, the Overcome Any Obstacle and Get Your Degree Guide, which educators, parents, and students say is a gold mine of information and strategies, especially for first-generation, low-income, and students of color who struggle to complete college degrees. Dr. Cantarella frequently provides workshops for college-bound students for programs including Futures and Options and Eagle Academy. She was author of the Student Handbook and Facilitator's Guide for the PBS documentary, All the Difference, produced by Westmore, as well as materials for the Ken Burns documentary, College Behind Bars. She's co-director of the Hunter College Black Male Initiative and has been a consultant with the National Urban Coalition for Effective Education. She is co-chair of the Steering Committee for Degrees NYC. She serves on the boards of the Reed Alliance and St. Elizabeth University, the Create Change Transformation Foundation, and the Boy Scout Council of Manhattan. Dr. Cantarella graduated with honors from Bryn Mawr College and has her master's and doctoral degrees from New York University in American Studies with a focus on American business. She is the daughter of civil rights leader Whitney Young. Welcome, Dr. Cantarella, and I'd like to offer you an opportunity to share any other words you wish to with our audience about your work and experience at CUNY.
So I am really honored to be part of the CUNY family, and I think my relationship to CUNY goes back to my late husband, who was once on the CUNY Board of Trustees in the very difficult time of the 70s. So I do feel close to CUNY, and I feel close to CUNY because it also serves a mission very similar to the school that my grandparents ran. Secretly back in the 30s, 40s, 50s, and the objective was then and for me is now to make sure that we put our young people of color and with BMI, our young men, in positions where they can succeed and thrive.
Thank you so much, Dr. Cantarella. And it's my privilege to introduce our final panelist for our conversation, Vice Chancellor Denise Maybank. Interim Vice Chancellor for Student Affairs and Enrollment Management, Dr. Denise Maybank, was appointed Interim Vice Chancellor for Student Affairs and Enrollment Management for CUNY in September 2020. In this role, she assumes responsibility for unifying the student affairs and enrollment management functions of the university's central office to guide the work of supporting student engagement from recruitment through completion and beyond. Prior to joining CUNY, Dr. Maybank served as Vice President and Associate Provost for Student Affairs and Services at Michigan State University. During her 15-year tenure there, she served in progressive leadership roles, beginning as an Associate Vice President in 2005. Dr. Maybank contributed to significant initiatives, structuring the undergraduate experience, developed partnerships with the graduate school and college to initiate the graduate student life and wellness emphasis, and conceived and implemented lasting initiative programs and services. Throughout her career, she has been a member of professional associations representing the disciplines and contexts in which she serves. She is a member of the Association of Public and Land-Grant Universities, Board of Directors representing the Council on Student Affairs. She values the opportunities to have her voice and expertise included in national initiatives on higher education. As an active member of the communities in which she lives, she has served on various boards of directors for civic and social service organizations, often being elected to leadership positions. She's also an active member of her church community and sorority. A lifelong learner, Dr. Maybank has earned additional credentials as an educational leader through the American Association of State Colleges and Universities and the Harvard Institute for Educational Management. She holds a doctorate in counseling psychology from Michigan State University and a Master of Arts in Educational Administration from Teachers College, Columbia University. Dr. Maybank is a proud CUNY alumna, having earned a Bachelor of Arts in Elementary Education from Brooklyn College. Welcome, Vice Chancellor Maybank, and I'd like to offer you an opportunity as well to add anything you would like to my introduction of you and your work at CUNY thus far.
Well, thank you so much. I am honored to be a part of this panel of brilliance, is what I have to call it. I've been invited to just bring my little self up in here in the midst of all of this wonderfulment that I get to share in this afternoon. And that for me is probably the biggest honor that I have right now, because sharing this space with each of you is like the hardest working women at CUNY almost is what I believe I'm sharing the space with, in the interest of focusing on the Black Male Initiative, is just so enriching for me. I believe that, this is an opportunity to shine, to let everyone know about the importance of what BMI does and what it offers, and to make a point of making certain that we let people know how important this work is. And we had the opportunity to take some of the BMI programs before the Committee on Student Affairs and Special Programs. And they were amazed, to the point that they want folks to come back and talk with them again about the things that were involved. It's like, Maria was there, she knows, but it's out there if you want to see it. I think it's important. And that's what this is about for me today, is really making clear how brilliant a light BMI is at CUNY and beyond. And so I'm honored to be a part of this panel. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Vice Chancellor Maybank. And I'd just like to add before we launch into the questions, my own experience. I just personally, I grew up in the projects in Staten Island, just another brown girl. Who would have ever thought that one day I would end up working in the kinds of roles that I do at an amazing public university? My father grew up in the segregated South. And so we have come a long way from those days, but we have a lot more to do. So let's launch right in, and let me begin with our first question, which is kind of a nice segue from, thank you for the beautiful setup, Vice Chancellor Maybank. Why have you chosen to become part of the CUNY BMI movement? So I'm not going to call in order. Anybody who wants to jump in first, go ahead with that.
I think I will jump in as probably the elder statesman here. There, when CUNY created the Black Male Initiative, things were not good for young Black men, young men of color. And I've had the opportunity to learn more. I'm on a committee of God at Riverside to review books on social issues. That's how I spend my summer. I get these stack of 10 books on social issues. It's really fun. But two of them recently, one is called Abandoned, America's Lost Youth and the Crisis of Disconnection. The other is called No Place on the Corner. And it has to do essentially with aggressive policing, but it's really about young men adrift and what do they do. And the issues that are described are the same issues that were, I think, at the forefront of the CUNY Board of Trustees when BMI was created. And having grown up as I did in a family that was dedicated to education, I also had the opportunity to observe some of the elements that made for success. When my parents were in college, my mother and my dad's sisters, and then there was one woman, Ursa Poston, who was my mother's roommate and my father's sister's roommate. She was part of my life until she died in her 80s. She also became one of the highest ranking women in federal government, Black women in federal government. When my parents were in graduate school, they were at the University of Minnesota, two of the people that they were close to, one was a guy named Roy Wilkins. If you know your civil rights history, you know that Roy Wilkins headed the NAACP during the 60s. Another was a guy named Carl Rowan. He and his then girlfriend used to babysit me when they were at the University of Minnesota. Leap forward years later, and I used to stay with them when I would go to the Black Caucus weekend in Washington, because Carl Rowan was then the highest ranking member of an administration, highest ranking cabinet member, Black cabinet member. These relationships began in college and continued all the way through their lives, and they worked together and they strategized together and they supported each other. One of my godmother, Ursa Poston's best friends, was a Hunter graduate who has now been highly recognized. Her name was Pauli Murray. Yale has now named a building for Pauli Murray. I have a letter from Pauli Murray to my godmother. And my point here is that I went from identifying the issue of our young men isolated, feeling abandoned, and what do we do about that? And CUNY BMI has provided an answer. There's the documentary College Behind Bars, where Bard College has taken college experience into the prisons. And if you see the documentary, one of the elements is debate, competition. And the students who are incarcerated debate students at other campuses. They're just part of the debate team. But what you see is that these students who are part of the Bard College program come together to strategize around how they're going to do their debates and pulling together their information and working together as a team. The Bard College Initiative team beat Harvard. So as I come to CUNY BMI, the thing that has been really important to me has been to build relationships over time, to make our program what one of the students once called a safe space to be smart, and to make it possible for them to know that they are there for each other forever. And you know, each of our campuses has a roster of alumni who are extraordinary. And we want to maintain those ties, just as on any other campus. You look at places like when I was at Princeton, and the alumni are absolutely silly in their manifestation and dedication. After we finish tonight, I'm actually having dinner with some of my former Princeton students. That's what I want for our CUNY BMI students. I want them to have the role models. I want them to be the role models. I want them to have the relationships and support for each other for the next 30 years and beyond. So that's what ties me to the program.
Thank you so much, Dr. Cantarella. Anyone else want to weigh in on that? Maria, I see you gesturing, so go right ahead.
Thank you. I'd love to weigh in. As a CUNY alumni myself, it was really impactful for me to have my life impacted by various mentors in my college who really poured into me unconditionally, right? And also throughout my academic career, in college especially, noticing how the amount of men in my classes as years went from freshman to senior year decreased dramatically. And then also seeing how impactful it was, how impactful an experience it was for me to have that mentorship in my college for someone who saw something, for various people who saw something in me, who saw something in this little girl from the Bronx, this Dominican girl from the Bronx, right? Who saw something in me that saw that I had so much more potential than I could ever see within myself at the time, right? And so how wonderful it is to be a part of something where I can not only listen to our Black and Latino men and advocate for them throughout their academic journey. I feel like it's my heart's work. I always tell everyone it's my heart's work. And it's something that I do with love. This is something I would do for free. And really the passion that I have about for it is because of my mentors who poured into me, one of which is actually Dr. Berenicia Johnson-Eanes, president of York College, she was one of the women in my life who really impacted my life. So thank you. And yeah, thank you to her.
Thank you. Vice Chancellor Maybank.
I felt like I kind of ended my comments with where you started here. So I'll be brief, but I will say that, you know, as I listen to my colleagues and just revel, firstly, in the names that Dr. Cantarella calls, because I'm just going, oh, I know who that is. I know who that is. You know, and it's just like, and I just have that moment. But to know that we are tied at heart around this work is what is most significant for me. As a first generation college student who grew up in Esplanade Gardens, you know, and thought about the experience of New York and the men, the boys and young men that I knew, many of whom are no longer on this earth for various reasons. You know, I think about the opportunities, I think about the intelligence of these men, which may not have been used in the ways that we would best glean from that intelligence, but still there needs to be this opportunity to cultivate that brilliance once again that exists among Black men and those who are aligned with that experience, because that's the beauty of BMI. It is not just about Black men, but it is about Black men. And that's the thing that I love about it. So I'm gonna stop there because I'm sure we got more opportunity to talk.
We have many, many, many. And, you know, thinking about the CUNY BMI programs as a whole, and I'd like to just thank you all for the really beautiful responses to that question. Really, really beautiful. You know, starting at the beginning. I would love to hear your thoughts on, or your best practices at, recruiting more Black men at CUNY, into our programs, in our schools. You know, are there things that you do or think or imagine that we might do, or that we do to continue to support the recruitment of Black men at CUNY Law School? And of course, our BMI programs are open to everyone. But, you know, we have a focus on Black men in particular for reasons that I think are patently obvious to all of us who live anywhere in New York, if not around the country. So your thoughts on that, on recruitment? You know, how could we do better? We can always do better, right? How might we do better at it? And what do we do that works quite well? Maria?
I would say that it's definitely important to lead authentically, right? Just as these phenomenal women on these panel and Eugenia, right, as well, lead authentically and lead while having impactful, real conversations with students, right? To ask the questions that no one is asking, so that you're able to identify the barriers and be able to show how their experience, how CUNY can help with that, right? Because CUNY has a plethora of resources. And also even, I would say, how the student understands the commonalities that we all have, right? Culturally, geographically, right? In New York City, everyone, you know, reps their borough and things like that in their neighborhood, right? But really finding that commonality and really finding also, and my last point also is how we organize our workspace, right? Is our workspace inviting to the students, right? I love to have my students already know I always have my aromatherapy going on, right? I have some lamps, right? And also pictures of other alums, right? Graduation pictures. They want to see themselves on the wall. They want to tell me, Ms. V, I'm going to be on that wall one day. And I'm like, okay, well, looking forward to the picture. So.
Thank you. Thank you. That's beautiful.
So at Hunter, our focus has been on empowering the students. And so our students are our best recruitment vehicles. And so getting them to reach out as soon as we get the word from the admissions office as to who's coming in. That's when we give our team leaders, we have students who are designated as team leaders and who have their own cohorts of students that they work with. And that's when they, you know, start getting on the phone and texting and reaching out, because part of what we want to do is create an environment where the students feel that they can lead and that their voice is important. So all of our programming is done with student voice. The other thing that attracts students is that we feed them. At whatever campus I've been, I've often said, if parents only knew how much of their tuition money went to pizza and donuts, particularly when you're dealing with young men. We don't know what their home circumstances are. We don't know when they're getting a decent meal. We have had situations where, you know, we'll bring, you know, containers. So if we've got leftovers, somebody can take it home. You know, empowering our students to recruit and engage their peers and develop their leadership skills and feeding their hearts and minds and their bodies.
Thank you. Thank you for that.
I'll just say, you know, keep the list coming, because, you know, this is what I'm here to do. It's to make sure that our enrollment is where it needs to be, and to think about what it means that we look at the decline in the numbers of Black and Latinx men in our ranks at any given moment. But the reality is we have to be open. We have to be open to hearing, open to accepting what it is we hear, and responding to who our students, our prospective students are. So just as Dr. Cantarella said, when you start talking about food, that's the basis of the Afro-Caribbean, however you want to label it, culture. It's about food. And so the extent to which we can think about the things that matter most to the communities we are looking to attract, the better off we'll be. Because if we can show them you are welcome here, we will have less concern about losing them. They'll tell us what the needs are if we'll listen. They'll let us know what they need if we are open in a way that does that, and show an ethic of care for who they are as individuals and what it means for them to be a part of this community. We're not just giving, we are receiving. The very fact that they are a part of CUNY brings a richness to us that we have to honor and recognize and value, so that we aren't allowing it just to go flittering out the door. I used to always talk at Michigan State, I'd encounter people, you know, it's like, sometimes I walked through the airport and people recognized me, and I was just like, okay, I'm not even sure who that is, but it doesn't matter. Hey, sweetie, how you doing? You know, it's like, it doesn't matter. I'm gonna say, hey. And I would say to them, okay, so what do you do? You know, how things going? What'd you do? Say, I went to state, and I said, so what did you get your degree in, and what are you doing now? Well, I didn't finish. That's not okay. The whole objective is for you to finish. The whole objective is for you to change the world from where we've given you a solid foundation to stand. But without that completion, what are we offering? Yes, it might help a little, but it's not going to get you where you ultimately need to be. And so we have to figure out how we hold on and capture those young people. So.
Absolutely, absolutely. And it's also not a small thing that they see who it is who's leading these programs, because I think there's some truth to, you got to see it to be it. I think there's a lot of truth in that. So, you know, my next question for all y'all is, you know, how do you feel our male students relate to you and trust us as directors and leaders and advisors? You know, it is a BMI program. There are many more directors and program coordinators in BMI that are men, which of course makes some sense in a way. And then here we are in Women's Month. And this is the Sisters in support of BMI. So, you know, how do you feel our male students relate to us and trust us in these roles? Maybe I can start, VC Maybank, with you on this.
Glad to jump in here. You know, I think that there are multiple ways that happens. Sometimes they say, you know, if you want to get the men to show up, put some women in the room. You know, it's just like that alone will attract. I'm just being truthful here. That'll make it happen. You know, it's like, why'd you go to church? Well, that's where the women are. So whatever it is that we do in that regard, that's one thing. It's like, so there's this natural attraction relationship, however we might want to look at it, to being in that space. And that may have to do with needing a motherly touch at some point in time. It may have to do with needing what may seem the yin and yang connectedness of what's different in that space from that context. But it may also be just, I needed somebody who just looked kindly toward me. And the manner in which we approach a male student can matter across the board. And that's not just in the binary identification, but that's in that non-binary consideration as well. How are you approaching? How are you offering you to a person as you interact with them? that allows them to come in. And that's where we have to be. I think that, you know, when we talk about the Black Male Initiative, it is our ability to attract another person. And our femaleness, our womanness, whatever it is about us in that moment, may be the very thing that they are in need of, that they are looking for, and to which they are attracted.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah.
I would agree with that. I think, you know, in my case, given that I am of an age that, you know, we just won't even get into, I know that I have been for our students, at the very least, a mother figure. That I, you know, I come with some, you know, some history over the years, and that they respect that. They talk a lot about their grandmothers. Some of them have been raised by their grandmothers or an aunt. So there's not always been, you know, a maternal figure that they could look up to. Some of them have come to this country without their families. And so I think, you know, Dean Rose, who is my partner in this at Hunter, in addition to our coordinator, but Dean Rose and I are sort of the same vintage. And I think we kind of represent a family. Some of our coordinators have said that they were the big brothers, right? So it does give that sense of a safe space. We like to coordinate, collaborate with other clubs and organizations on campus, which may have more women. We do that, you know, periodically, but it's not our focus. Our focus is to provide what we call, you know, is a safe space to be smart for our young men. And there are times when we have programs, for example, on issues around health or mental health, where I will not be present, so that they do feel that they can say whatever it is that they need to say with whoever it is that we've brought in to have that conversation with them, that they can be open and honest as young men.
Thank you. Maria?
Yes, and VC Maybank and Dr. Cantarella hit it right on the head. The maternal touch, I don't have children of my own yet, but I believe that the family-oriented environment, and I always tell our students, this is your family on campus, right? Is really a huge benefit to that. And also us being able to ask them questions that perhaps coming from a male, coming from another man, it might be either too intrusive or the student might feel uncomfortable, but I feel like as a woman, I can use that to my leverage a little bit and establish that trust a little faster, right? And also recognizing moments where like, okay, this is a conversation that the student needs to have with another man, right? And recognizing those spaces, to Dr. Cantarella's point. And also trusting, right? Trusting that the student trusting us, I think, because they have more times than not, they would have more women in their lives than they do men. And so in that, we can make the connection to the men in our college that are able to foster those mentoring relationships and continue through that.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Maria. You know, I want to jump in a little bit on this one before I answer the next question, because in the pipeline to justice, it has been true for the last 2 decades that only 5% of lawyers in this country are Black, and only 5% of lawyers are Latino, and only 2% of lawyers are Asian, and all the rest are white. It's still true that only 37% of lawyers are even women, right? So in the legal profession, we have a very long way to go. And so what I know is true in traditional law schools, certainly in traditional law schools, is that so many of those who just are born into privilege, have ways to get support in their families. Their father is a lawyer, their mother's a lawyer, all of that kind of stuff. But our students are a little bit different because they come from backgrounds like the one I came from, or all kinds of different backgrounds. And so while in Pipeline, we are not ready to say we are people's mothers, we claim auntie status. And so what we say is, when you find yourself in a situation in class and you realize other people have folks to go to, come to your aunties. We are those people for you. We can help you figure out whether this makes sense or whatever it is you're struggling with because you feel at a disadvantage because you're first gen, or you're translating through multiple cultures when the dominant culture in legal field is white. It just is. That's just true. We know that. So I wanted to weigh in on that too, just because I feel it's really, really important to us. The cohorts we build and the support we see the students providing one another, but also that we are always noodling and nosing and nagging in there and checking on how they're doing and saying, hey, do we need to talk? Because we just, like whatever, right? So, we do that. And so that family mentality, I think, is across all of the BMI programs, because we understand how important it is. And then we have I think that you all hit on the simple importance of kindness, shared humanity. And we have a little geeky phrase in the Pipeline to Justice, but it's for real. And we say it's pipe for life, pipeline for life, not just getting into law school, not just matriculating, but in your career and beyond, because our alums come back and they support each cohort, right? So anyway, I know I'm just a moderator, I wanted to jump in on that because I think so much of this is the heart of why our programs support students and help them. So moving on, as sister BMI directors and leaders, how would you assess your ability to articulate the specific language of courage, confidence, and consistency in helping develop your Black and Latino men? I'm going to repeat the question. As sister BMI directors and leaders, how would you assess your ability to articulate the specific language of courage, confidence, and consistency in helping to develop your Black and Latino men? And Dr. Cantarella, can we start with you on this one?
Sure. I think the most important strategy for us has been identifying role models. And some of those can be our own alumni, bringing them back. An irony perhaps has been that COVID and our being on Zoom has meant that we could bring in the alum who's now on the faculty at Stanford Business School, the alum who is doing work with NIH in Washington. Wherever they are, we can now get at them, right? And they can come back and they can join us and they can share their stories. And that's been an incredibly helpful thing. We also can bring in and do, other people that we know who can be resources. One of my former Princeton students, whom I will see later, came and spoke to our students about careers in finance. Nice white Jewish kid, right? And he ended up mentoring more than one of our students, one of whom is now working at Bloomberg. Every step of the way of his getting there came from this other Princeton kid, right? And so finding ways to bring people in and have them be able to connect and see that, this story is about somebody who was once a junior in college too, and who, you know, had ended up in the dean's office because of whatever need that they had. And so making all of that stuff okay, and revealing the power of then staying connected with each other and seeing what's possible.
Thank you. Courage, confidence, and consistency.
I think for myself, oh, sorry, DC Maybank. I think for myself, it would be really listening to what's not being said. Listening to, and through Zoom, the pandemic really took a hit for our higher ed and student affairs lives, but and students' lives. But now that we're slowly coming back to campus, I think that it's really important. It emphasized the importance of really practicing that and being able to meet the student where they are, and also help them think about a vision, right? Once the vision is in place, you're meeting them where they are and you're connecting them to the right individuals, especially our alums, to Dr. Cantarella's point, who are doing such amazing things out there and are the first ones to want to pay it forward. That's definitely in our language, right? The specific language of courage, confidence, and consistency.
As I listened to both of you, a quote came to mind for me. It is a Winston Churchill quote that says, "Success is not final. Failure is not fatal. It is the courage to continue that counts." And for me, that embodies each piece of this focused mantra of BMI. Because in the success is not final, when we put alumni in front of our students, they know that there's this ever striving opportunity for better, for more, for different, for opportunities that present themselves. That's where the wealth is, in the fact that you have opportunities and options. Failure is not fatal. Yeah, we're all gonna stumble, something's gonna happen along the way. But you have to have enough in you, enough confidence to know that that's not the end for me. That's just something that happened along the way. I stubbed my toe, I gotta keep going. I can't fall down and stay down. And so we need to instill the confidence to be able to keep moving. And then, you know, the courage piece, it is the courage to continue that matters. And that is what we have to get them to in the total of what it is the experience is. And we all need that. We need to know that, because you're going to come up against those times. It's like there are times when I'm sitting here in this office going, look, I'm just tired. And I might be tired that day. And I'm just, no. But somewhere in me, because of the people in my lives, because of the sturdy Black bridges that I've been able to cross, because of the wonderful people who've touched my life, no matter who they are. I have a mentor who is 76 at this point at Princeton. We can talk about
talk later.
we can talk about who. And she is amazing to me. So it's not just in a particular vein, but that support for me matters and gives me courage, because I reached out to her and all I had to do was send an email. It's like, okay, I'm at that point today, you know, and it's like, and she's just gonna reach back. And so success is not final. Failure is not fatal. It is the courage to continue that counts.
That's a beautiful quote. That is a beautiful, beautiful quote. And, you know, just adding my thoughts to the wisdom that has already been shared. You know, I think that a lot of students come into higher education. A lot of our students come into higher education believing that other people have something they don't have. right? And it's not true, but we believe that because we have been socialized to believe that, right? And so I think one of the things that I think our programs all do, and that I think is so important to lift up, is that, yeah, it's hard. It's hard, but you so can do it. You totally can do it. You are not alone. And then the other part, the other side of that is, I think as educators, it's so important for us to normalize the struggle, because I think people think that they must be doing something wrong, or like, no, the struggle is the norm. Like in higher education, we can do a lot about changing the way our minds are working if we just understand the struggle is real and everybody is dealing with the struggle. If we normalize that, it would make, I just think, an amazing difference in higher education for folks. Similarly, normalizing mistakes. We are always rewarding when someone gets the right answer, but it is only through getting the wrong answers that we learn what the right answers are. So why are we undervaluing those mistakes? We should be going, yeah, that was a good one. Be all in. Now let's figure out how to move out of that mistake, because guess what? You're not making that one again. You'll be making some other mistake. Good for you, you know? And so I just think this, this mindset that we almost sometimes put on students, that you're supposed to be excellent in every moment and perfect in all times, that is not so helpful necessarily. And I think that's what our solidarity in the programs, you know, really offer our students. So moving on to another question, VC Maybank, you referenced this a little bit indirectly before. And so, you know, many folks of all genders and ethnicities are supported by BMI programs, and more students than ever now are, you know, actually applying to school and showing up at school as non-binary or as trans men and women. And so, you know, could you share your thoughts about how this evolution has impacted you, or the way you run your programs, or your ability to provide appropriate and supportive socio-emotional support to students in the BMI programs?
I'll jump in on this one to start and just say that, you know, for me, and I think you may have mentioned it previously, but it is about humanity and dignity. And we have to honor that every day for everyone we encounter. And so when we decide we can, you know, not understand or push somebody aside or do whatever it is we think we should do in a context because it's just not familiar, that doesn't work. It just does not work. Every student that comes to us is deserving of our acknowledgement of their humanity, and to offer them the space of dignity in which they need to walk and to be, and to make certain that they can access all aspects of the benefits of a CUNY education, and to not be cut out because someone was fearful, threatened, whatever the concern might be. There has to be a way that we embrace the person so that they can accomplish the end for which they have come. And not to decide, you know, that we place judgment or, you know, whatever in deciding how they get to access or what they get to access. Embrace the person and honor who they are so that they offer their contribution to this world. Because I can't be all that I want to be. You can't be all that you need to be until we each are all we need to be for one another. And that's what we've got to think about in that context. So.
I'll jump in here. I had the privilege of growing up in an unusual faith tradition, particularly for family of color. I'm Unitarian Universalist. We are, we're quirky, but we are all about social justice and social action. The first person who died in the marches in Alabama was Reverend Reed, who was a white Unitarian minister. And so I've grown up with this belief in, you know, people being people and all of us being worthy. And I also have now a family that is interracial, interfaith. We have gender identities that are diverse. I mean, we pretty much cover the waterfront at the Thanksgiving table, right? We got it all. And so it's kind of very deeply part of you know, what I believe, what I do. And I'll just, you know, sort of end by saying that it's part of our job to prepare our students to be that way, to not only feel good about who they are, but to be open to who others are. And my son sent me a video this week. His 4-year-old daughter, they're out having ice cream, and she's overhearing a conversation, and she turns to her dad, and he videos all the time. And she said, "Dad, did you hear that?" And he said, "I'm not sure. What did you hear?" And she said, "He said a bad word." And my son says, "What did he say?" And she said, "He said, I hate you. That's a bad word." And my son said, "That's right. We don't say that." And she said, "That's right." And she went back to eating her ice cream. But yeah, I hate you is a bad word.
I believe CUNY thrives in diversity, right? Students come to CUNY because it's a diverse environment, because they want to be with peers, with their peers, students and faculty who are like them and who are not like them, right? So if BMI is an inclusive space, to VC Maybank's point, we embrace individuality. Inclusivity is key, right? And through that, and the way to get to that is through education. That's the only way to a safe space. And I also believe that, yeah, it's so important. Yeah, that was my point. Like, it's important to be inclusive. That's at the core of the CUNY mission.
Absolutely, absolutely. So how do you advise, or what do you say to the students, particularly men of color in your programs, who struggle to ask for help?
We were actually having a conversation about this just yesterday. And really, to my point, my previous point, in listening to what's not being said, right? And really identifying the barriers and asking the questions of, what are your challenges? Like, let's look at your transcript. Let's see if there's any trends. Let's identify what happened, right? Understanding the student's perspective on education, history with education, right? Identifying any support that the student has had in the past or has not had in the past, and really amplifying the student's voice and teaching the student also how to, we always love to do role plays, and how do you go to an office and ask for help, right? What do you say? How do you encounter, how do you work with difficult people? We've all been to those workshops, right? In the workplace, right? And translating that into the educational world, right? How to advocate for yourself in those moments where you feel like you need some help. And really just listen to yourself and listen to what you need and how to advocate for yourself in that moment in the best way that you know how.
I also would add to that, helping the student know the community that they're in. Bringing in to our BMI meetings, people from the library, people from the advising office. In fact, you know, trying to have usually a young man of color from the advising office sort of attached to us, frequently present. so that we start demystifying who these people are, why they're there, how they manifest their belief in the student and their desire to help. And none of us goes into this work with the objective of getting rich. That's not going to happen, right? We are doing what we're doing because we want to be helpful, because we want to lift people up. And the students need to see that and hear that and have that experience.
I'll jump in there as well and just say, you know, let me get my blessing because I was able to help you. Just, you know, can we just do that? So I got another quote I want to share with you. I was able to pull it up. I was like, okay, can I find this quickly? So there is a quote from Vernon Jordan, who we lost earlier last year. And I had the privilege of, you know, interacting with him while I was in Michigan. He came as a speaker, and just powerful man. He's already tall, but just powerful in his being and all that he accomplished. So if you don't know him, Google him, Vernon Jordan. But here's the
Family
quote.
friend for decades.
I figured there was going to be a connection with the other people you named. So I'm going to Vernon Jordan. And here's what he said. You are where you are today because you stand on somebody's shoulders. And wherever you are heading, you cannot get there by yourself. If you stand on the shoulders of others, you have a reciprocal responsibility to live your life so that others may stand on your shoulders. It's the quid pro quo of life. We exist temporarily through what we take, but we live forever through what we give. I'll let it stand.
Wow.
He was absolutely a rock. And he succeeded my father at the Urban League. And he considered my dad his mentor.
This asking for help thing, it really is a challenge sometimes. I'm sure we have all experienced people waiting too long to ask for help, because then there's so much more sort of to address. And I want to change a paradigm that seems to exist, which is this idea of like the rugged individualist stuff. BS. No, it ain't so. And your quote, VC Maybank, I think really summed that up artfully. It's a mistake, and we're taught to think we're supposed to act that way, when actually it's vulnerability that's the strength. Vulnerability and authenticity. I'm a fan of Brene Brown's work. You know, I think that, you know, that right there, if we all were able to embrace our vulnerability and understand we are standing on shoulders, we are working together, we are part of collaborative families in a place where everybody is here to try and support you to succeed, to be your personal best at whatever it is you are trying to do. Like, that's here, it's already here. And sometimes we get in our own way because we think that asking for help makes us weak. Asking for help makes us seem less than, and when the opposite is true. And, you know, some of this is internalized, and, you know, we have work to do around that, but I really do think that in our BMI programs, we do a very good job of helping people feel we're in an educative space, we're in a safe space, we're in a space where you can be you. And so that really does, I think, foster much more opportunity for people to feel themselves ready to ask for help, you know, and believe it, because they know the help will be there for all the reasons you've all said, you know. So we have yeah, go ahead, Maria.
I just wanted to say that imposter syndrome can put you in a headlock. Listen, but that's why I've learned that it's important to be kind to yourself, right? And speak to yourself compassionately, be self-compassionate. That's a thing, y'all. So if you haven't heard of being what self-compassionate means, look it up. Kristen Neff's work is amazing. Learning how to be self-compassionate and is really the key to overcoming imposter syndrome. So, and would help in asking for help.
Thank you for that, Maria. And wellness, and a wellness orientation, not just like always strive to keep up, like, but wellness. What does wholeness and wellness mean? We talk a lot about work-life balance and all that, but like we all have to learn giving is from our excess, not from our core. What are we doing to nurture our core so that we can continue to give and be our personal best? So thank you for that. Yeah.
I just want to add to that, you know, that's why one of the things that we do very deliberately in our program is bring in healthcare professionals, mental health professionals, and I leave the room so that they can have those conversations and they can hear that and they can express what they need to express and feel safe.
That's important, and an amazing resource that you know able to provide students, because so many of our students come from environments where they don't know about that. they don't know what is that, you know. So just even the exposure to it in a higher education environment is an amazing thing. So, you know, doing your best to guide and advise young Black and Latino men, what are some of your favorite words of comfort, direction, encouragement, inspiration, or empowerment? What are some of your favorite words in the guiding of our Black and Latino men at CUNY? Go ahead, Maria.
I was looking for a quote, but I'm gonna share it before we finish today. But that makes me automatically. I love to ask students who takes care of you, because a lot of us we're taught to serve from the very beginning, to serve and to serve others and not feed ourselves and not nourish ourselves in the best way possible, right? Because that all starts with us. But I always love to ask them that, and I always love to really just kind of hold up a mirror and say, look at you, look at how wonderful you're doing, look at how far you've come. And let me give you a pat on the back for that. That was great, right? Celebrating any small successes. And really kind of, sometimes we need someone to say like, no, you're doing a great job, right? Like, that's really phenomenal. I'm really as motivating as I can in our work. And having the real conversations when we need to have them. I call them get your life meetings, right? Like, but really it's the motivation part. But I'm gonna look for that quote because that quote is the one that I want to share.
Marcia, all of your wisdom and experience at multiple schools doing the kind of amazing work that you've been doing, you know, what are some of your words of comfort and direction, encouragement, inspiration, empowerment for our young Black and Latino men?
You know, I would agree totally with Maria. And I think when we ask them, what are you proud of? You know, what was something good that happened this week? You know, when they start to go down that rabbit hole of, you know, doom and gloom. So was that the only thing that happened this week? What's the good news? Where have we got some good news that came out? And then just affirming, you know, just constantly saying, you're great. I remember when my son was going through a patch when he was in high school and feeling down on himself, and so my husband gave him a notepad that had printed on every page, "Damn, I'm good," right? Years later, we kind of look back and said, maybe he took that to heart too far. But it was that, to just have in his face on his desk right there, "Damn, I'm good." And to bring that attitude to our students, to have them affirm each other, to let them lift each other up. There's an exercise where, which we've used often, where you put students in pairs and you ask them to chat with each other for a few minutes, and then to do a speech about the other person, as though you were introducing this person who's about to get an award. What would you say about this person, right? And it ends up being just a lot of fun. But it really does make both parties stop and think about, what they value in each other and what they see as valuable in themselves.
So as I'm listening, the words that came to mind for me is, "You are enough." And it's like so many messages come at us daily that pick us apart, that take us apart, that leave us on the ground in pieces. But how often does somebody just right now, I'm not worried about what's going to happen to you in 5 years. I'm not going to worry about what's going to happen to you in 10 years. No, right now you are enough for the space that you are standing in. You are enough to have impact. You are enough to make a difference. You are enough to reach out. You are enough to give. You are enough to stand there and let someone stand on your shoulders. You are enough.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful. And they're already a success. They're in college. They're moved, and so, you're already a success. You're already on the path, and it's okay if your path is crooked. That's all right. People are not like checking your resume at the, after you're in the job. So we have about 5 minutes. And so, I'd like to, first, I really want to thank the panel, each of you, for sharing your time and your experience and your expertise and your hopefulness. It's really inspiring to me, and it just makes me feel even more gratitude for my ability to serve in the kind of roles that I have the privilege of serving in. But I want to give each of you, since we have just a few minutes left, an opportunity to share with our audience where they can find your projects or like social media things, promote work you're doing, things that you want to make sure, projects you're working on. So Maria, maybe we could start with you and Dr. Cantarella, and then VC Maybank, and then I'll sum up.
Thank you. Yeah, you can follow our project on Instagram. It's Urban Male Initiative, and under Instagram, you'll be able to see the link to our website, our contact information, how to make an appointment with us, and also my contact information will be on there as well. And also on the John Jay website, if you search Urban Male Initiative, our contact information and program activities and the calendar is there as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Dr. Cantarella.
So especially this year, we have had an amazing student who is responsible for particularly social media. And so our program is named Brothers for Excellence, and it was named Brothers for Excellence by the first cohort. So 17 years ago, that was the name that they chose. And so you'll find us in social media under Brothers for Excellence. But this young man, Fabian Garcia, has been an absolute wonderful madman at promoting whatever we're up to, at talking about what we just did. He's just incredibly creative and using the tool of the moment, right? Social media is where you go. And so we've just been really excited, especially this year. Not hard to find us, and you'll love the energy.
Thank you.
Well, I'm here to support all of you. You know, I get the privilege of sitting back and watching you all do wonderment, as I call it. You know, it's like y'all just make it happen. And so I get that privilege of saying, go out to the website, go to the BMI site, know what's going on. I want to honor Dr. Kwan as he takes the leadership of this amazing program from over all of these now coming up on 17 years. And Jorge and the power behind everything that he has done with the program and in supporting everything. And so whatever it is that is happening at any given moment through a dialogue, through an engagement, through an opportunity. And I want to get in the room with all of you. That's my thing. It's just like, that's what I want to have happen. So I'm glad about social media and glad about all of those opportunities, but I want to get in the room. You know, it's like I live my life as a musical, and I think about Hamilton. No one else was in the room when it happened. I want to be in the room where it happened.
In the room where it happened.
That's
Yeah.
it. That's it.
Having some tea.
Having some
That's
tea.
right.
Let's
That's
just
right.
make it happen. We can make it happen and just do that. So I'm honored. I appreciate having been in this space today. And I just feel so enriched by all of you. So let's just keep it going, keep it moving, and make it happen.
Wonderful, wonderful. I'm going to take a moment to plug CUNY Law School. Any brothers and sisters out there watching this dialogue, listening to this dialogue later, and you're a junior or a senior, and you think you might want to be an attorney, guess what? Y'all got a law school at CUNY. CUNY Law School is the #1 social justice law school in the country, in the nation. It is a small law school. And if you are interested in social justice and figuring out how you might want to use the law as a tool for social change, please come find us. CUNY Law School is at cuny.law.edu. You can find that. And to all of us, remember, promote CUNY BMI social media at CUNY BMI on all platforms. You can catch up on previous CUNY BMI dialogues and CUNY BMI conference panels on youtube.com/CUNY BMI. Look out for the CUNY BMI giving campaign announcement. When that is available, you'll find it there, and visit CUNY BMI website at www.cuny.edu/BMI. Again, thanks to all of you for panelists for a heartfelt, beautiful discussion of support, women of BMI standing strong with our brothers. Thank you all.